Hello everyone, thank you for attending the second GameTuner session. I'm Leonard Frankel and I run the business development at Plarium. Today I will be reviewing some indie games and hopefully a good portion of the feedback I'm giving will be applicable to other games as well. So let me start with this small introduction about Plarium. We are the largest hardcore games developer on Facebook web. Plarium is mostly known for our series of strategy games, which includes Stormfall, Sparta, and Total Domination. We were also privileged to have won some awards for our games along the way. Moving on to our indie games list for today, we will be reviewing these three games: Pop Puff and Away, Shaman's Showdown, and Vimala Defense Warlords. The way it will go is I'll start every game with the video, a short trailer of the game so you can understand what it's about. Unfortunately, the sound is probably not going to work for the videos. You'll have to do it only without sound. And then I'll go step by step into some points we found that could perhaps be improved to enhance their monetization and engagement and so on. So first we have Pop Puff and Away, developed by Accidental Rebel. By the way, all of these games are presented here at the Indie Prize Awards at Casual Connect. So if you like them, if you want to talk to them later on, they're here. Here's a short gameplay trailer. And there's sound. Awesome. All right. So first, the game starts with this nice still animated comics that provides a background story on how the dino and the bear came to find all of these cupcakes. It's a great start to bring all the players into the right atmosphere. Then some good and informative tutorial screen, very short text. That's a good approach. And a nice congratulations screen that sits well with the game's atmosphere. Levels are too easy. So the maximum moves we encountered while playing the game were 3. Most levels have 2 moves only, some have 1. And since you only have a handful of options to play with, you just need to click some of the arrows, it doesn't take long until you fail try the entire set of possibilities. Now, in this specific stage, the bottom and the top part showed both of them showed the same information of 3 moves left. Probably should be used for some other informative or fun text. Difference between levels is not very significant. In the first chapter, you can change the direction of arrows. Next chapter, you can push boxes around and then holes in which the boxes fill up, and arrows that disappear upon touch and switches. What could add diversification to the game are other shapes to the level. So instead of square shape, go for different types of shapes, zooming in and out during movement, and other eye candies to keep players excited. There's no map. Only progression you experience is numeric, so you advance in the number. If you want to give players a better sense of progression and discovery, consider creating a map. It could go horizontal, vertical, or even round, as in Best Fiends, which seems to really fit the feeling of this game. since it's a small world and you start with a round shape in the comics in the beginning. When finishing a chapter, new levels are not revealed. Instead, you now need to press the arrow and see new levels of the next chapter. There's no feeling of success after finishing a chapter. You should give the player a small sense of, wow, I just managed to finish this entire chapter. On the other hand, in the current monetization structure, this is a good practice because you send players to the payment screen. I'll soon discuss a better monetization approach. And let's stay with this one for a second. The game doesn't show you how many more levels or chapters your purchase will grant. You just have one single purchase button, and if you go ahead with it, I think the entire content is being enabled. A stronger monetization could be as following. Turn the game into a real free-to-play game. Add energy that limits the amount of sessions or levels a player can try. And then you have energy refuels based on time, and you can sell them, a refill. Add time limit per level, so you have a bit of stress, right? You're into a level, you want to think how to do it, but then you have only 20 seconds or 10 seconds to complete the level. It will be more engaging and more fun. And then lastly, you could add an option to see a replay of the previous attempt. This is not for monetization, more for the engagement. If switching to this monetization approach, you should add more levels, since 100 levels will not be enough to monetize players. However, as players will spend more time in the game, you can monetize them via ads, and if you do, you can expect something between 15 and 20 cents in lifetime value of ads revenues. This is a bit lower than mid-core games because lifetime expectancy of players is relatively short. Right. Moving on to our next game, Shaman Showdown by Synergy Studios. Let's watch the trailer. So this is a good start in an onboarding process, showing players how to perform matching by hiding the rest of the screen. And during the tutorial, you might want to hide the arrow marking the current level on the map, as it might confuse players. Early stages are fairly simple. The enemy is close and can be seen on the screen. You have only one monster, one color that enables it, a small background on how the game runs. So you can see the monster has a green symbol on it, a green stripe. And so if you match green spheres on the board, you summon a monster that goes on and attacks on its own. There is a problem with focus right now with the game screen. So there are two main sections, right? There's the battle section on top, which is about 30% of the screen. There's the spheres board at the bottom, 60%, and the monsters at the middle, 10%. As you play, you can't really perceive both sections at the same time, and this causes you to look only at the matches on the bottom. The upper part is actually important because you need to time your matches to launch attacks and spells based on your enemy's progress and the monster's timers. A good solution could be taking off 2 rows of spheres and increasing the battle section size. It will also make it more noticeable and impressive, so you can win players' affection to the monsters as they experience them better. In the battle, your progress is not clear, since the life bar of you on the left side and the enemy on the right side isn't always visible on the screen. We found that you have to keep scrolling right and left as you play. A good solution could be keeping both life bars visible at all time. After a successful battle, new monsters were won. And this is a nice victory screen. I like the lights and sun effect surrounding it. We had a problem with connectivity as we played the game. Right now, I think the client side isn't sending corrupted information to the server upon disconnection. And so, for example, after finishing this level, the game got disconnected for some reason, unrelated. And when we got back into the game, we didn't have the monsters. So this could be easily fixed. This is the launch screen for going out to battle, and it lacks some information. For example, there is no way to change the team at this screen, and also you have no information on what enemies are expected. In other collectible games, it is customary to give the players some decision before entering the battle that has to do with the team they're taking and the enemies they're going to face. Right. Participating in battles costs mana, and the only place to buy mana is to press the plus button at the top of the screen. You might want to add a mana tab to your store, the general store as well, to access it from there. There is no indication of numbers of the levels at the map itself. Only when you press a certain level, the level number is revealed. And it's also hard to press those levels. You need to click at an exact location, and I think you should be more forgiving with the clickbox setting. This is the store where you buy gems or gold. And there's a good bonus structure for progressing, so the bigger the package you buy, the more bonus you get. But the graphics of the last three options are not differentiated enough. Also between the gold and gems, look how similar they look. Now, your players that make the big purchases, you want them to really feel excited about making them, because after all, what you're selling are pretty pixels. So I would take the effort and draw better images for the packages. This is the spells upgrades page. There are currently 4 rates of upgrade for each spell, and the cost is multiplying itself with each purchase. So first upgrade is 100 gold, and then 1,000 gold, and so on. Monetizing here could improve. And a better way could be to add more upgrade points for each spell. Let's say 10 steps. Now, what you could do is make the 5th and the 10th step unique, so that when you reach them, you get a significant increase to the spell, and maybe make it slightly more impressive visually as well as the spell launch. What you could do to go another step with monetization is make the cost of these steps much cheaper. Not more expensive, cheaper, but add a chance of success or failure, as you want to see it. And this chance of succeeding goes down as you climb in steps. So first upgrading the first step is 100% success, guaranteed. But then from step 4 to 5, you have only 30% chance of succeeding. And from step 9 to 10, you have only 5% or 10% chance of succeeding. And to complete this monetization approach, you could sell luck charms that improve your chances of succeeding in those upgrades. This is a good summoning package screen and a good structure for price points. However, it seems that prices are not balanced. After launching, you should optimize them with A/B test and observing which price points drive further purchases. At the general guideline, I think that the game right now does not give away enough gems. You only get 1 gem for every day you log into the game. Now, you do want your players to at least summon 1 or 2 special monsters, because you want to create that attachment to the game. You want to get the players to like the game and feel stronger about it. You do that by giving them enough hard currency to make the special summons. And don't worry, because your whales are those players that will buy expensive packages anyway, because they need strong monsters for fusion as well. When facing a level for the first time, the only difficulty level available is casual. You can win rare monsters only on hard or challenge, but there is no indication to the player, nothing to encourage them to replay and grind the levels. This is the fusion screen, and it's not clear which fusion is better, monsters of the same kind or different kinds of monsters. Right now, also, monsters can only be fused with other monsters of the same or lower level. It might not be a good restriction. For example, someone wants to fuse a high-level monster of low rarity into a low-level monster of high rarity to upgrade it. This is very common practice in collectible games. Also, the cancel button doesn't seem to work right now, only the small triangle at the left screen, which is not very intuitive. In this level, I won a few chests, but actually I have to manually click them one by one to discover what's in them. And today, most collectible games reveal the chest gradually but automatically after the first click. So you want to go easier on the player. Resume and the home button do exactly the same right now, and they take you back to the map. I'm guessing there is a missing functionality here, as I would expect resume to take you to the next level. And if that's the case, you might want to change the text to next. Like I said earlier, this is a good retention feature. You give players gems for coming back, but you want to differentiate it and give a different offering for coming back for longer periods, for example, the 4th day or the 6th day, and let players know what they're going to expect for coming back for many days ahead. So make it visible. Next up, our last game for today, Vimala Defense Warlords by MS Hive Media. Let's watch the trailer. All right. So this is a nice menu structure. It can be tilted sideways. However, when having a wide screen as your menu, bless you, you need to optimize the sensitivity to allow easy movement. Here it's a bit slow, and this will repeat in other scrolling parts of the game. This would have been a very good start for the game, as you are giving your players a gift. But as the tutorial is quite long right now, you should consider moving this to a later stage, for example, after the tutorial's end. There are many tutorial steps with quite a lot of text in it, and it takes too long before the player experiences the actual battle. There could be much less text, actually. Saying this is the energy bar will be enough. And let players explore what eats away their energy on their own. Another step in the tutorial tells you about location options, and only then the start of battle. Now, in most games today, you should try to identify the single most fun point of the game and then let your players get there as soon as possible. Because there's a lot of churn happening in the first few minutes of each game. So a player starts your game for the first time, and in the first 5 minutes they're going to decide if they want to play it or uninstall. So any moment that goes by without your players getting the best of your game and getting hooked is a moment they might leave. Battle scene. You have troops, and you can select which one to use and what action to do with them. Every character has an attack and one or more special skills. Any action you take costs you points which are shown in blue. The first problem with the battle is that in the beginning, there is not enough differentiation between the characters. Most of them deal about the same damage, and other than the healer, you don't really feel a reason to choose between your troops. The second problem is that since all characters start with a full actions bar, there's no significant strategy around which of your troops you want to use first. Now, a game like this should provide meaningful choices from the get-go. Otherwise, you might lose the feeling of skill and just feel like grinding the game. All right, some characters can heal. And the following scenario happened to me more than once. I faced a sequence of actions where I would hit the enemy, and then his team would heal him. And this went on and on as many as 6 or 7 turns until his team ran out of mana and the bastard finally died. Not fun. Without changing the battle mechanics completely, you can avoid this by preventing casting on the same spell on the same target turn after turn. A better solution could be changing the battle mechanic. You can look into making it real time, but instead of starting with full mana, start with 0 and build up. So your choices are between using a troop now or saving their actions for later and getting a special ability enabled. Real time will also add a stress element to battle, as you would have to decide quickly, and even selecting which potion to use could put you at risk of losing your troops. Occasionally, a negative weather effect comes in, which is announced to the map screen and is relevant for certain areas. No troops were resistant to any weather, so there was no strategy around making a selection of troops before the battle to face the weather more properly. Also, it isn't shown here, but the troops that are stunned by the snowstorm have a lightning animation hitting them. It doesn't perfectly make sense with snow, so maybe change the stun animation or change the snow to a lightning storm. You're occasionally offered a potion that could help or harm you randomly. Given the narrow spectrum of effects, choice again seems to be always try and see what happens. There is no true sense of gambling or risk-taking, so such a feature should be broadened to the point that there is either a decision involved or at least a sense of winning when you hit the positive change, so like a drawing effect, maybe a spinning wheel. You can also monetize rerunning it if it really feels good. This is the achievement list. Currently built sideways, so scrolling sideways, right? And it's a bit tiresome as it takes quite long. And imagine 6 or 7 pages of scrolling sideways full screen. Generally speaking, a vertical slide is easier to manage. And if you decide with sticking with the horizontal one, make sliding much more sensitive to allow a full scroll in 1 or 2 swipes. Same goes for the shop items. Again, you need to scroll a long way. Metagame involves improving your heroes between battles by equipping them with a single item. Such items can be bought for soft currency and then fused upwards in the rarity ranks. You can also buy rare items with hard currency and save time. New heroes can be purchased for a lot of soft currency. While the monetization logic of driving players to convert their hard currency to soft one to buy a hero is understandable, it could be much simpler and more commonly done by other games to simply sell them for blue sapphires, the hard currency, and give players enough of them at some point to buy their first paid hero, or at least get close to it and then do a small purchase to reach it. There are 2 ways to fuse an item. First is with green emeralds. First is with green emeralds, which has the risk of failing and losing the materials. And second is with sapphires, which grow in cost along the item's rarity, but guarantees the success. This is a good point of monetization and makes the game feel natural, since players can grind their way up if they don't want to pay. But the first expensive failure they will experience will probably induce payments. There seems to be a good reason to add more equipment slots. To each hero. This will accomplish several goals. At first, it will allow an equipment strategy. Since you could build the heroes in different ways, you can build the hero to be more aggressive, more evasive, etc. It will also drive players to accumulate more items and lengthen the game path, since legendary items require a lot of work and some money. Lastly, it helps to plan future live events where unique items will be granted such that complete certain sets and create a unique playing strategy. This is a good practice of adding tips during the loading screens, and it helps pass the time better as players wait for the server to respond. This is the PvP arena, which is asynchronous and played automatically for the opponent. Current choices of reward is simple. You battle, and when you win, you get medals, which you can redeem to buy rewards. This type of structure does not encourage competitiveness enough and doesn't drive players to excel. They have no penalty or fear of losing a battle, other than losing the energy cycle. You might want to change it to a leaderboard practice. Also, requiring 15 hours to refill the entire energy bar is quite long. Why not fill single tickets every 15 or 30 minutes? This way you can encourage players to come back every hour to replay the battle scene. So this is from the dungeon, which I will soon show. And it is the cost of reviving your... oh, this is after completing the dungeon, sorry. I got confused. The dungeon is an endless PvE campaign where you keep getting waves of monsters and a boss is coming in, which is interesting. It's interesting to fight it. Right now, it's not really balanced. And for example, up to wave 20, you get more rewards. You just saw that I got 100 rewards for dying at level 20, which is less than the cost of 2 revivals that took me all the way over there. The time between waves is a bit long. You have the number of the level announced, and then the level loads, and it's a bit long. You should shorten it to make it flow faster and also adapt session times. I'm done. All right, guys. So thank you for sitting here and then listening to me rambling. I hope this was interesting. If you have any questions, now would be a good time.
Hi. I have a question just about you're suggesting on a number of games introducing a timer, essentially to add more tension to the turn-based.
Oh, right, the first one.
And I was just wondering, how do you think that might affect monetization? Because the gameplays of those, say, casual puzzle games would then become, I guess, a little bit more core by adding that.
Right. So, a puzzle game. This is an interesting example because Puff and Away is a fairly simple puzzle game. There aren't a lot of actions or choices you need to make in the level. So, if you would add, and I think some levels in games like Candy Crush do have times or at least a number of turns in them, but there you have multiple choices. So there are so many choices you can make. And here, in an average level, you can make between 5 and 10 choices. That's it. It needs to be experimented with, but adding a time pressure would not necessarily make the game more core, rather make it more stressful, and sometimes stress is also creating excitement. So for some games, it could work. All right, guys, thank you very much. Enjoy the rest of the conference, and Singapore.